Hey there, toy collector friends and Star Trek fans alike. Welcome back to the channel, and in particular, welcome to this, the USS Enterprise NCC 1701C. It's the Hero Collector Star Trek collection. This is the XL version of the Enterprise-C that we saw really for the first and only time in the Next Generation story, Yesterday's Enterprise, although it was also immortalized as some of Captain Picard's gold ships elsewhere in the Star Trek universe. So what can I say about this ship? First of all, it's a beautiful model. This I can say. We didn't get a huge amount of visual screen time with the ship, so it was very hard to become overly accustomed to it and to form any sort of attachment to it as a design. That said, I think it's a really beautiful design, and certainly a very clever functional design. I'm not using the turntable for this one, I'm doing it manually, purely because I think there's so many angles to this. I don't want it to keep spinning round and round needlessly. I just want to sort of take it round in a far more controlled and manipulated fashion, so you can really get to see all of the various different facets of the design, such as the nacelles, such as the detailing on the nacelles, shuttle bays, the bussard collector, some of the detailing on the secondary hull, as well as all the detailing on the saucer section. And I will be picking it up and getting it in hand as well. But I'm also going to pop some photos at the end of the video, as I try to always do, so you can get a real sense of just how detailed and how awesome this ship can look as well, if you're going to do some model shots and model photography with it. So in the first instance, let me just sort of stop it there for a second and hold it there. The ship does a really great thing. We'd seen previously how the ships of the line, the Enterprise line, despite being different classifications of starships, they had sort of carried the lineage through. So what we were accustomed to seeing was a saucer section, like a neck, a secondary hull, and the nacelles that were on struts. We then saw, and even through the sort of the original series, even the NX version kind of gave us that from Star Trek Enterprise. Then we moved into the realms of post-refit. We had the Excelsior class Enterprise-B, which was, again, broadly in line between what we'd seen before and what we had now, albeit a very different style and model. But it was extending some of those key features, such as a different shape for the saucer section, a change in the shape of the nacelles, for example. Then we, on screen at least, have the Enterprise D, which is the Galaxy class, which we then see as quite different in terms of when it launched back at the back end of the 80s on our TV screens. For those of us who had that experience. And there was this mysterious, I mean, at the time the Enterprise B was unknown as well to us, but there was this so even when the B was revealed in Star Trek Generations for its brief outing on screen, we still didn't know what the C looked like. And then it turned up in the episode Yesterday's Enterprise, and whilst that was, I think, predominantly a CG render, possibly there was a model involved. I'm not 100% sure. There were people screaming at the video now saying, of course it was a model. But either way, the design concept that bridges the gap between what we saw as an Excelsior class and what we then had as the Galaxy class, it had a really difficult function. And also, it had to operate in battle conditions, because as I recall, part of the story of the Enterprise-C is not so much how it existed, but how it ceased to exist, which was, not to be a spoiler for the episode Yesterday's Enterprise, so if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to sort of skip forward 15 seconds now. The end of the episode, the Enterprise-C returns back in time only to be destroyed, so the normal timeline can be restored spoilers over. So this also had to have a little bit of a battleship element to it in order for it to function in the way that it was needed to function. And there is something kind of functional about it that does give it that battleship feel. And I think it's fair to say that this general shape and design does give it that slightly more... Battleship's a little bit overly dramatic, but it does have something of a ship that can hold its own in some degree of battle. Now we can see again, and this for me is reminiscent of the extended bridge and hull area on the Enterprise-B as it extends back along the saucer section. It is a very circular saucer section. You can still see some of the now familiar traits with the phaser strips, obviously all of the windows and the escape pods that we can see there, and the bridge of course sits there. We have far more sort of right-angled nacelle struts. I'm sure they're not called that, but somebody let me know in the comments below what they're really called, but I'm calling them nacelle struts because they're struts with the nacelles at the end, so it kind of fits for me. The bussard collectors, in fact, everything around the nacelles is extremely familiar for what's going to come next in the Starship design line. And again, hero collector here using their lovely blue translucent plastic along with the red to really pull out those warp fields. And there's some really lovely detailing, as you can see there on the top, and along the top of the nacelles there, as well as the registration that we get along the hull on the struts, if they are struts. So I really like this. I think there's a lot of detailing, and considering it was, now this is, it pains me to say it, but as it was a kind of throwaway ship, it's almost doesn't, there's almost a sense that it's the forgotten Enterprise. It's not one that had a lot of attention paid to it in universe, as it were. But I think, I think it's really lovely. And I think we can see here the bridge area, all of that surface detailing is really, really lovely. So let me get this up and in hand so I can show you a bit more. I'll move it out the way so I don't collide with the base system. So I'll just pull it off there. So again, it's mostly plastic and resin, and there is some, I would say there is some die cast in there. But it's a very light model, which is nice, so it's easy to handle. Just bring it through so you can kind of have a really nice look at that saucer section and the detailing on there, pulling out all of the different rooms, the lovely registration there of the Enterprise-C revealed at last for us all. I'm going to flip it over so that you can have a look at the underside of the saucer section there. Not anything hugely surprising. A very underwhelming captain's yacht, if there is one. Possibly just looks like a standard flying saucer as seen in the Invaders. We can see the neck section here. I'll try and keep the light on it. And the neck section does of course also have some reminiscent detailing of the Enterprise-B neck section. So again, it does that job of bridging between the B and the D by being a ship that carries traits from both of those periods of time. We have the translucent plastic in play on the deflector dish here, so we can see that. Let's come underneath it a bit more clearly here, so we can see all of that. And then you can see the underside of the secondary hull, beautifully detailed there. Again, I'm sure those with far more encyclopedic knowledge of the shape of these ships and the on-screen detailing of these ships will be able to point out that there are some minor detailing inaccuracies or paint inaccuracies. Again, apologies if I'm not acknowledging those. I'm not that familiar with what it should look like. I'm only commenting on what it does look like. And when you place this ship, and again from a size point of view, it isn't the largest ship, but you can see how that it requires both my hands to nestle comfortably in. So I think that gives you some indication of the size of the thing in real terms. As I say, it's quite lightweight. As with most Hero Collector and Eagle Moss Star Trek starships and other vehicles and models, it's a lovely display piece. The light catches it beautifully. It does photograph well in the right conditions. It does catch dust and pet hairs and things like that quite easily, even though it's displayed behind glass. But it is fragile. This is not something you want. It's not like a Playmates toy starship with robust plastic that's really going to take a pounding and crash land into various planet surfaces, disguised as duvets or whatever they might be, or vice versa. It is a very well crafted, very well put together, but relatively fragile model. So my advice, if you're going to display it, and it really does call out to be displayed, it's a beautiful piece. It really does call out to be displayed. But if you are going to display it, then do make sure you display it carefully and safely to avoid future disappointment and upset. And I do have a personal story of woe linked to just that kind of thing, hence me always going on about it in relation to another USS Enterprise model, which we will get to in the fullness of time. Right, so let me pop this back in the cradle. So it's one of the slightly more easy ones to attach, so you get a real chance to see it one more time. I'm going to let it, I'm going to manually rotate it so you get a chance to see it from various different angles. As I say, it's a lovely ship. I appreciate it didn't get much airtime. I think it's a shame. I would love to see it crop up in some of the other sort of expanded universe shows now. Maybe Lower Decks could revisit the Enterprise-C at some point, somehow. I mean, I know it was, spoiler warning, I know it was destroyed. Shh. But who knows? Alternate timelines, model collectors. There must be a way of us revisiting it. Time anomalies. Goodness me. Let's get the Enterprise-C back on our screen somehow, one way or another, even if it just crops up at some sort of Starfleet Enterprise museum. So this is the XL edition of the USS Enterprise-C from the Next Generation episode, yesterday's Enterprise. Does it have a place in your collection? Well, only really you know that, but if you are a collector of the Star Trek starships, I think you'd be hard pushed to not have it. I don't think you could possibly not have this in your collection, especially if you've got all of the other Enterprises. It makes sense to have it, and if, like me, you're a bit of a completist, you're going to want to have all of the Enterprises in their XL edition version. I'm currently, I don't know if you've noticed, Eagle Moss Hero Collector have started to release gold plated editions of the starships now, and I'm really fighting myself to not pick those up. I don't particularly want to have them. I don't think they're particularly important for my collection, but the fact that they exist and they're in the Enterprise designs and I don't have them, it itches parts of my brain, and I fully appreciate that it says far more about me than anything else. But so if you have any sort of feelings like that, then there's no way you couldn't pick up the Enterprise-C and include it in your Star Trek Starships collection. As I say, particularly if you are a collector of the other XL Enterprises thus far. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much for sticking with me for the last 15-16 minutes or so. You've been a fantastic audience. This has been the Hero Collector USS Enterprise NCC 1701C from their Star Trek Starships range. And I have been, as ever, the time-travelling toy collector. So, thank you very much for your time. I hope you've been able to make a decision about whether or not this does belong in your collection. And if it does, please do hit the like button. And if it doesn't, please do hit the like button as well, because I'm just glad to have been able to give you the opportunity to make an informed decision either way. Because actually, it's just about your decision and your opinion and what you like, and everybody likes something different. So that's over to you. Similarly, if you've liked this, why not subscribe to the channel? Also, you can hit that notification button so that you always get told when there's a new video, whether it's to do with Star Trek ships, enterprises of days gone by, whether it's to do with other things you might be interested in, like Star Wars or Transformers or Doctor Who or Battlestar Galactica or whatever it might be. It's an eclectic range of videos there. You have a little nose around some of my playlists if you like. I'm also, as I said, going to put some of the photography that I've done with this model up straight after this video ends, so you can see what it looks like in action. And if you do like the look of model photography and toy photography, have a pop over to my Instagram page. It's the Time Travelling Toy Collector, and you can see a whole load of different types of toy and model photography there as well. Anyway, thanks very much. You take care. It's been great having you company for the last 20 minutes or so, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Until then, this is the Time Travelling Toy Collector saying, don't forget that a thing of beauty really is a toy forever. One to beam up.